calm. Set It Off by Strafe, I don't know. Blue Eyed Soul. Oh my gosh. That's the jam. Do not put that on at the wedding. Do not invite me and put that on because I am going to the dance floor. Don't dare me. You don't even have to. Set it off. That was good. That was good. We are back. It is time for some more good heart talk. Time for the talk portion of our show. I'm so excited about today, guys. We're talking about predicaments, overcoming dilemmas and conflicts, living life amongst the weeds. You know that you're of substance. You know that you have fruit within that is necessary and must come out. But how do we live amongst the weeds? We talked about that in the first segment. This second segment of Heart Talk is brought to you by my new book, Help Save Me from My Broken Heart, Your Journey to Living and Loving Again. You can pre-order your copy of Help Save Me from My Broken Heart at theheartconnections.com. Theheartconnections.com. You can pre-order your copy. The book will be released early May, so it's coming out soon. Get your copy. And if you want to watch me live on YouTube, go to bit.ly/Heart Connections. bit.ly/Heart Connections. Want to send a shout out to my honey Kevin. I was just looking on Facebook and some pictures popped up of us and it just warmed my heart. I just want to tell you I love you, sweetheart. Thanks for doing life with me. Telling you, we're talking about living life amongst the weeds. And as promised, we were going to talk about how to overcome the weeds. If you have to live life amongst the weeds, and the weeds are the troubles, the predicaments, the dilemmas and conflicts in life that may come your way. You have to understand that just as much as you're trying to do good in your life, you're going to have to deal with some of the negative things that come your way, like traffic, for example. I feel like that's the weed in our life. What if you're trying to go someplace and be productive, but you're caught in a traffic jam? It's a weed. It's not like you're not a member of the George Jetsons crew. You can't just hop up out of traffic and fly off. So you're going to have to deal with that weed. You can't uproot it. You have to deal with it until you get to where you're trying to go. And that's how we have to be in life. That's how we have to be in life. There are many of us who have had situations take place in our lives in our past. We're still going through some things that have been weeds. Like weeds, like you may have been trying to do something good, investing in yourself, whatever the case may be. Maybe you were, let's say you were going to school to get a degree. Maybe you were going to school to be a doctor. You want to help your community. You're sowing good seed. And then bam, all of a sudden something happened to someone in your life. And now you had to become a caretaker. And it's like it threw you off. You had to take a couple semesters that turned into a couple of years, that maybe even turned into a couple of decades. Weeds in your life. Listen, you continue to nurture the seed. As you nurture the seed, you will also be nurturing weeds, so it seems. But guess what? Those weeds are going to last. Those weeds are going to produce the necessary fruit. You just have to keep doing what you're doing. So let me give you some practical ways to overcome the weeds. Let's first acknowledge that the weeds are there. Let's stop acting like we don't have these things in our lives that are getting on my nerves. I'm so sick and tired of people telling people just get over it. In the context, it depends on the context. You do have to get over it. But it's what you do to get over it and how you go about getting over it. It's a big deal. You can't get over something that you won't acknowledge is there. How you going to climb a mountain that you won't acknowledge is there? Tell me how far you're going to get up that mountain if you won't even acknowledge, hey, this is a mountain I'm trying to scale. So acknowledge the weeds in your life. Maybe you grew up without your father, or maybe your father was there, but he wasn't emotionally there. And you feel guilty for the emptiness and pain that you feel because you know of other people whose story is way worse than yours. And you're trying to figure out, why does this bother me so bad? It bothers you because it's a weed and you have to deal with it. But if you choose to deal with your daddy issues, whether you're a male or female, when you have children, those things will 9 times out of 10 resurface and cause problems in your relationship with your children. That's why we have to acknowledge weeds. so that we can deal with them accordingly. One thing I do know, I don't have a green thumb, but I just got 3 new plants, y'all. And I talk to the plants every morning. I try to make sure that they get enough water and sunlight. And I have not repotted them. I don't have any weeds in them, but I'm watching them. I've been said I don't have a green thumb, but I have a lot of love in my heart. And I feel like if I nurture these plants, I keep my children alive. I should be able to keep the plants alive, right? See, there's certain type of weeds require certain type of pesticide. So in real life, I know that as I'm learning about plants. So once you acknowledge it, now you have to do the work and research to figure out how do you go about dealing with this particular type of situation in a way that works for you. You may hear the testimonies of others. Other people may share, oh, girl, when I was in that situation, I did this. And oh, boy, don't you do that? Because when I was in that situation, I did this. Let me tell you something. You're going to have to take some time to evaluate and have this thing diagnosed and have a prognosis that's specific to you. I'm mixing horticulture and medicine and all kind of stuff, but just follow me. The diagnosis is what's wrong with you. The prognosis is the plan of dealing with the diagnosis, the plan of dealing with the problem. So once we acknowledge that we have a weed in our life, now we have to think about how we're going to deal with this. Okay, you did not grow up with your dad, or you and your dad have a strenuous relationship. How are we going to go about dealing with it? Many times in life, we are rocked to and fro. We are not rooted properly. So when wind comes, too much water comes, whatever, the weeds come, it throws us off. One thing that I found, I learned through coaching. Shout out to Coach. She doesn't call herself a coach. I cannot remember what her branded name is, but Jade Simmons. She's awesome. She's from Charleston, South Carolina. She's a classical pianist. One of the few professional classical pianists in the world. She's from Charleston, South Carolina. She was a runner-up for, I think, the Miss America pageant years ago. She's awesome. And she said something in one of her programs that I did, and you guys need to check her out. She's awesome. So look her up, Jade Simmons. She talked about planning ahead and how you're going to deal with things. So if you know certain triggers take place, holidays come, or when Father's Day comes around, or if you see this certain thing taking place in life, you know that upsets you or that causes you to, kind of want to retract from people. That's a weed in your life. What you do is you start coming up with ways you're going to deal with that ahead of time. So for example, when Father's Day comes around, because me and my father, I'm going to give you an example of what this would look like, how to overcome a weed in your life. When Father's Day comes around, and I know that I get very upset or I get very down or I get angry when Father's Day come around, this time when I start to feel those emotions, I'm going to make it my business to write down how I'm feeling. Or I'm going to make it my business to call a specific person and talk to them about it. I'm going to make it my business to sit in a still place and really process why I'm feeling this way versus going and trying to forget about it, going to trying to drink it away, smoke it away, party it away, shop it away, gamble it away, church it away, whatever you're trying to it away. Because church could be an addiction for you too. You could be trying to go to church just to get your mind off of things, not necessarily to be better and help others. Just like any other thing you try to do to forget about the weeds in your life. But you have to acknowledge, and then you want to, after acknowledging, you have to accept what it is. This is what it is. And then you start to think of ways to deal with it ahead of time. A weed in your life. Maybe you're in a marriage and you guys argue all the time. So what you do is you say, okay, the next time this argument starts, this is what I'm going to do. The next time this takes place, this is what I'm going to do. This is how we start to overcome. What happens is, instead of giving so much energy to the weed, because this is why the servants wanted to uproot the weeds in the field, because the servants knew the weeds were soaking up necessary nutrients from the soil that the plants needed as well. So they were like, let's get rid of the weeds because we want our plants to be strong. But you had the farmer thinking ahead was like, no, because if we pull those up, everything is going to go. The problem in your life right now is supposed to be right where it is. I know that's difficult to swallow, but it's teaching you something. It's building something in you. And one of those things is to be responsible and be accountable for yourself, to care about yourself enough to say, you know what? I'm not going to respond to you today. Maybe you're someone and you have a difficult a blended family situation. Maybe your baby mama is good and crazy, or your baby daddy is not the best. And you're like, you're tired of that situation controlling your life. You care about your child. You want to have a better situation, but you don't know how to deal with it. Start coming up with some things that you can do to show that person grace. I'm not going to argue with this person when they do this. When he does this to make me go off, I'm not going to go off this time. I'm going to pick up the phone and call this person. I'm going to pray. I'm going to stop and take a deep breath and let God lead me. Start thinking of ways to deal with the weeds in your life. Don't let them deal with you. You don't have to. I think many times we don't value ourselves enough. So what happens is we deal with all of the foolishness that comes our way. We think that we have to cater to the weeds and prune the weeds right along with the fruit. No, we don't. We don't. We don't have to pacify them, but we definitely don't have to. We don't pacify them, but we definitely don't, ignore them, because we have to definitely overcome them. Like, we got to overcome. We just have to. So you think about it. We'll be back with more Heart Talk. We have some news you can use coming up at 12. This has been your segment of Heart Talk with your heart coach, Adelai Brown, right here on kinetichifi.com. Have some news you can use coming up at 12. We'll be back with more Heart Talk. We're going to talk about being misunderstood at the 12:30 hour. I know a lot of people can relate to that. In the meantime, start thinking of ways to deal with those weeds in your life. Don't let them come in and suck the life and the joy out of you. You could make a choice not to allow that to happen. You focus on the good times. Focus on the things that you want to happen. Focus on the things that you want to be. How would you like that relationship to work out? I know y'all not together anymore, but y'all can be friends for the kids, right? You can try hard at that. Set an example. Be a light. Let that fruit come forth despite the weeds. You're worth it. Remember, that beautiful rose still has thorns. We all have to deal with something. Love y'all. We'll be back with more. But let's focus on the good times right here. Jackson 5, Heart Connections. We're taking it back, y'all. We're getting ready for our midday mix, so we're going to slow it down and then speed it back up. Right here on Heart Connections with your heart coach, Adelai Brown, and KineticHiFi.com. Thank you.